Hello, students. Today we are doing our Chapter 10 review, and we will be taking notes for this lesson. I will be checking notes on Monday, so please make sure you have all of the notes written down from this video. Chapter 10 is on probability and statistics. Please open up your textbook to page 402. This is 10.1 on outcomes and events. Please write down the title. You can pause the video at any time during this presentation in order to make sure that you have enough time to write everything down. So example 1, you roll a number cube. What are all the possible outcomes? So looking at the picture here, you can see that a number cube goes from 1 through 6. So your outcomes that I'd like you to write down would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You just list them when it asks for all the possible outcomes. Now you spin a spinner. What are all the possible outcomes? So let's take a look. Imagine you have the spinner on page 403. So I would like you to turn to page 403 to answer this question. If you look at the picture, how many possible outcomes are there? And so by looking at the spinner, you will see that there are a total of 6 possible outcomes. How many ways can spinning red occur? Well, 3 of the sections are red, so you write 3 ways. And what are the favorable outcomes of not spinning purple? Well, there are 3 reds, so you list red, red, and red. Then you have the color green, and there's 1 green section. And then you have the color blue. So if you look at page 403, you will see the spinner and you'll be able to identify all of the outcomes that are not purple. So if you notice, there are 5 ways that are not purple. So 5 out of the 6 sections are not purple. That is lesson 10.1. Now I'd like you to complete 10.2 on probability. Turn over to page 408. Probability is the likelihood that an event will occur, and it's always between the numbers 0 to 1, or 0% up to 100%. I would like you to pause the video at this time and copy down this chart. This is a probability chart. At 0%, it is impossible. At 1/4 or 25%, it's considered unlikely. At 1/2 or 50%, it's equally likely to happen or not happen. 75% is likely, and at 1 whole or 100%, it is definitely going to happen. It is certain. Once you have the chart copied down, this is our formula to find probability. So I'm going to put a box around this so we remember it. Probability of an event is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the number of possible outcomes. Probability, or capital P, is usually written as a fraction. It can also be written as a decimal or a percent, but most common form is fractions. So example 1 says, describe the likelihood that it will rain tomorrow if there's a 20% chance of rain. So you look at the probability chart here, and if you notice, you don't see 25, or you see 25%, but you don't see exactly 20%. 20% would be somewhere around here. So as you think, it's somewhere between impossible or unlikely. Impossible can only refer to 0%. It is possible that it can rain tomorrow, but it's not very likely. So we could say that the likelihood here would be unlikely. It could happen, but it's a small chance that it will. Now, for example 2, this time you roll a number cube. what's the probability of rolling an odd number? So think of the favorable outcomes. The probability of getting an odd number. Odd numbers could be 1, 3, or 5. So the number of favorable outcomes is 3. 1, 2, 3. Now the total number of possible outcomes on a number cube are 6 because it's numbers 1 through 6. Now in probability, please do not forget to reduce your fractions and put them in simplest term. So the probability of getting an odd is 1/2. This is equally likely to happen or not happen. It's 50% chance. Now example 3. The probability that you randomly draw a short straw from a group of 75 straws is 1/15. 1 is the favorable outcomes over 15, which is the total number of outcomes. How many are short straws? So here, there's a hint, and it's to solve a proportion. And if you look on page 409, there's a great example, which is example 3, which is using a probability to solve a proportion. So let's work this out together. I'd like you to make sure you're writing this down. The probability is the number of favorable outcomes out of the total. Now it says, you know the probability is 1/15. So we write 1/15. That's the chance that it could happen. And we set it equal, or we set it proportional to the number of total straws. Now, the number of possible outcomes, or the total, is the denominator. 75 is the total. We want to know how many are short straws. So we'll call that X. Now here, when you solve the proportion, you can cross multiply, but I always like to find the common multiplier. I know 15 times 5 is 75. So whatever I multiply to the bottom, I do to the top. 1 times 5 equals 5. So X equals 5. So out of 75 straws, approximately 5 of them will be short. So we can use probability to make an estimation. Now moving on to lesson 10.3. Go ahead and pause the video to write down the title here: Experimental and Theoretical Probability. This begins on page 414. Now, experimental probability is the probability from doing repeated trials in an experiment. So as you conduct an experiment, the total outcomes is the denominator, and the number of favorable outcomes that you're hoping for is the numerator. So here, just like in our probability example above, the probability of an event is the number of times your event occurs divided by the total number of trials you conducted. Make sure you write this down along with the definition. So example 1, you rolled a number cube 300 times. Find your experimental probability of rolling an odd number. So here we have to look at a graph. This bar graph tells us what number was rolled and how many times they rolled the number. Well, we know the total number of trials is 300 times. Now we need to find the probability that we rolled an odd. So the odd numbers would be 1, 3, and 5. We rolled a 1 48 times. We rolled a 3 50 times. And we rolled a 5 49 times. So those are the 3 parts, and this is all probability of rolling an odd. So I'm going to write probability of odd equals this number over 300. I would like you to finish this example on your own and go ahead and check your work. You should have, when you add these up, 147 divided by 300. Now we will pause here and we will pick up example 2 on the next video. So please watch the second part to chapter 10. Thank you.